Hello and welcome to the second part of our webinar.
Welcome back to the second part. First, I will do a little recap of those who couldn't join part one. After that, I will deep into a few visibility scenarios and try to answer questions how bodies impact the visibility and how can I solve my scenarios. I will do this in a few little live demos. And finally, I want to show how SMARTUpdate can handle existing Creo files in updating those with the latest layer mechanisms. And this is also done in a live demo. So let me take this. Well, motivation. Well, I talked about this already, is mainly MBD and the collaboration within a team, and more lately, the new multi-body functionality that came in with Creo 7. Okay, let's recap part one, motivation I had already. So we talked about the levels of visibility in the first part on the assembly components, body feature and element levels. I talked about the different visibility control techniques like style states, simplified reps, combined states, and also layers. We had a little section about upstream and downstream usage like assemblies, 2D drawings, and Creo view. And finally, I showed how my personal visibility strategy is and showed how my model looks like with the different layer states. Yeah, with this, I want to dive into the new content, and I've collected a few scenarios that I think they're realistic. What you possibly want to do if you're using multiple bodies and layers in combination. First thing, or first scenario will be, I want to see all my bodies in the combined states, in all combined states, but I also want to blank my bodies in the combined states. Second one, a little bit more difficult. I want to see my bodies in some combined states, and in others, I won't see all the bodies. In drawing mode, I have, I think, most obvious case. I want to see all my bodies in all my views. That's, well, I think in more than 95% all of the drawings the case. But now with the multi-body, you could imagine to have a drawing of a part that has views that contain all bodies and other views that contain only a portion of the bodies. And in the assembly, I can imagine that you want to see bodies from a part in all combined states or make it invisible in all combined states. And finally, in the assembly mode, I want to have a mechanism how to show or have a combined state that shows all the bodies of a part or a component in this case, and another one where from one component a body is invisible. And again, Creo view is another scenario. I just want to see if the same behavior is created as in Creo parametric. So with this, dive into the scenarios a little bit more deeply. First one was part mode, all bodies visible or invisible in all combined states. So very easy. I collect all my bodies on a layer. I isolate the layer, my bodies are visible, or I hide the layer, the bodies are invisible. So very straightforward. Second scenario, a little bit more difficult. I want to make my pins from my part in one combined state invisible. For this, I have to create a new layer and put everything onto this layer that I want to see in my new combined state. I isolate the new layer and hide all the other layers that contain bodies. And then I have to save this status to a new layer status and use it in a combined state. Then I can switch between those with and without pins. And when I've done this, I want to just have a look into the Creo view and look if this mechanisms apply to Creo view as well. You see the model tab here with the bodies already. But all this I want to show in a live session. And I'm going to my Creo parametric. It's Creo 8, latest version. And for my first task, I'm loading the same part as before. And open the layer tree to see the layers in here. So in my case, I have the model. It's containing the two bodies. Well, this is all I have, so there's not more in this part. And yeah, if I want to blank them, right mouse button, hide, they will disappear. So this is what I can do for all the combined states. So if I'm switching back to another one, going back, it's visible again. This is because I have not saved my layer state. Yeah, so I think first scenario, very easy, but you have to put the things on a layer because otherwise you wouldn't be able to blank anything. So second scenario would be, create another combined state where I don't see the purple pins. So, okay, first of all, I start creating a new layer. New layer, ABC. Okay, just 1 second, once again, layer properties again. And I put in here the ones that I want to see later, the adapter. Okay, new layer created, and as I showed in the first part, this new layer gets shown. Okay, for illustration purposes, I hide these, and it's difficult to see, but my layer state gets a plus, so it's changed, and I have to save it to keep the changes. So next task is to create a layer state. So open the View Manager, go to the Layers tab, and add a new layer state. So it's called ABC. And so the next task would be to activate the correct display. So isolate, well, unfortunately, isolate, it's not on the right mouse button. You have to go through this icon here where the isolate command is. And nothing happens so far. So I have to hide this layer. And well, magic. The correct display appears and my layer state gets a plus, so it's changed. Save, layer state, get new layer state. So last task, create a new combined state. Again, new ABC. Reference the originals here and just check if the layer state is correctly added to my new combined state. Yes, it is. Okay, fantastic. Close the dialog and you see the new tab ABC in the very end of my list of combined states. And very simple, switching between those. You see in the layer tree, you can see the differences between it. So very straightforward. So let's export all this to a Creo view file. So PVZ, call it webinar. The Creo view file has been created. I'm just launching the Creo View Express. And open my webinar PVZ file. And it appears correctly as I expected it. It opens up in the model tab here, and this displays the two bodies of my part, and I manually can switch those on and off. That's kind of nice functionality in here. But I also can use the Viewables tab and switch between my combined states here. Model, well, very same, ABC without pins. Work, supplemental geometry. Yeah, so very easy. Keep in mind, the filters need to be checked. So I left out the datum axis here for a special reason. Otherwise, I checked all. So if you don't check them, you cannot make them visible. Yeah, so that's the Creo view part of it. So back to my presentation and to the next scenarios. That's drawing mode. And the first scenario, very easy, very simple. I want to have a general view that shows all my bodies. For this, I have the two options, or I have one option, or I'm creating a no combined state view, and the layer status of view is drawing dependent there. Well, this is indicated by the brown boundary around the view. For this, I have to adjust the layer settings once in the drawing, save it, and all my bodies are visible, and I'm just then creating another view for verification, just to show how this works. Yeah, and another next scenario is adding another view to it that doesn't show the pins, just what I created before with my little part. So that brings me back to Creo. Here we are. And I'm opening up now. I'm completely creating a new drawing. I don't use a template for this purpose. I just want to have a blank piece of paper. My part is the default model. It's empty and it's a landscape paper. So let's just create this. And again, show the layer tree. So as the model is already included in the drawing, I can see all the layers of the model in here. They are all shown except the system or the super layer hidden items. So let's create a new general view just in here. And the system asks me for selecting a combined state, and I don't do this right now. I use no combined state. And as all my layers are shown, it shows me a lot of supplemental geometry with it. I just hit OK for this reason here. And my view is created. Let's do it a little bit bigger. And now I just hit this little arrow button to show up the boundary. So as you see, this is a brown boundary, and this means this view is drawing dependent and it follows the drawing settings of this drawing. So if I want to correct this all, this is very easy. I hide the complete everything in here. And from there, I'm just using this one isolated. and my display gets correctly quickly. To make this all happen, you have to look at the drawing layer status once and make sure that your control of the drawing is independent from the model. So model dependent would be the setting of no in here, and means that if you switch a layer in the model, it would be switched in the drawing as well, and this would modify your views, and I don't think that anybody wants to have that. So if you have this set to yes, like me, it's controlling most layers, and well, as this option says all, it's controlling all layers, and the difference is just the two super layers. Yeah, for verification purpose, just let us create another combined state view with no combined state here. Just put it next to it, and you see there it takes over all the settings. And if I hit this arrow here, I see they are both drawing dependent. Well, let's just generate a new layer, a new view here. And now using a different combined state, for example, my ABC that I just created. I'll put it in here. Okay, move a little bit. And you see this view does not contain the pins. Well, you could say, well, why is it like this? Because you still see the layer tree and nothing has changed. Yeah, this is because you're still on the drawing level here. And you see my new view has a green boundary. And if I select this view, layer display changes to the correct setting. To make this persistent, I have to save the status. This is also the case for the rest of the ones. So if I go to the top model again, it switches back, save status, well, is saved already. Yeah, so this is how this works on 2D drawings. And this is not only limited to the bodies, how I showed it like this. This is also same mechanism if you want to show a datum curve in just a single view, or you want to have a kilt showing up in one view, or even a datum plane or so that you can, in an isometric view, this is what you could do very easily, preparing this with layers up front and understanding the mechanisms of the layers in the drawing. Okay, so let's go back to the presentation and to the next scenarios. And the next one is in assembly mode. And here it gets a little bit more tricky because you can't control a body from assembly level. So you have different alternatives. So the first one is a temporary one. You can, through the model tree, for example, select the body pins and hide it with the right mouse button. So that's, well, it's temporary, it's nice, it perhaps fulfills the requirement in this case. Okay, but it's temporary and not persistent, and you cannot save it because you can't save a layer state for the parts here. Alternative 2, well, it's not really an alternative. You can prepare this on part level, but if you do so, if you assemble this to multiple assemblies, this part, it in every case will have the pins invisible. So that's not a good idea either. So another alternative is just not using layers for that, but creating an extra part and inheriting the intended bodies through a feature in this new part. I used the external copy geom for this, and I replaced this part in the assembly. And this is very similar to my last scenario from the assembly, where I wanted to have two different combined states switching back and forth. And one time I'm showing the pins in the other, I don't want to see them. Again, I used an extra part for this, used external copy geom for that. And I created simp reps. In my case, in my example, I created simp reps and used them in respective combined states. So let's have a look how this works. So just I'm clearing up all this, what I don't need anymore, and open up my test without pins part assembly. Perhaps I start with the regular one, showing how this. Yeah. So I just used my part in this assembly, and I don't have any bodies on assembly level. They're in parts level and in my adapter. So we have the bodies here. I, for example, can blank it, but this is a temporary thing. So I cannot save this to a layer state right now. So it's impossible. So it's temporary. If I retrieve the part once again, pins will show up. So let's clear this out once again and open up another assembly that I prepared a little bit, showing the layer tree again. And what you immediately can see is that the simplified representations are shown in the navigation area. And here is my extra part that I called without pins, and I have excluded it in a simplified rep. And this simplified rep I used in my model tab. So I don't see this part here. But I also created another simplified representation. And if I switch to it, you can see in the model part that I just reversed the visibility of the test adapter part with the one of without pins. Again, this is done by simplified representations. I could have done this by styled states as well. So no difference here. And now I have two combined states that I can switch back and forth and see the part. For visibility reasons, I gave this part a different color so you can see it more easily. Yeah, this is about the assembly. So assembly level, you can't control part level layers from there. So that's the reason I used a different approach for my scenario. So let's go back to the presentation once again. And yeah, it's not a summary, but it's just a kind of, well, how do I realize this? Well, my proposal would be if you go back and think about it and capture the use cases that you can imagine happen at your site. And compare these use cases, including all the body functionality, with the visibility strategy that you're currently having. If there's any gaps in there, perhaps you have to adjust it. And if you're feeling comfortable with your new or adjusted strategy, then you can start to create or adjust your template files for new objects. But while you are doing this, you probably will, you can imagine that you already have hundreds of files that have not the latest strategy incorporated, speaking layers, layer states, and so on. And for this reason, a software helps. And well, SMARTUpdate is designed for exactly doing this. And if you compare the two approaches, on the one hand, you have a template file that's, as I said, for new models. It's is it applicable to all models? Or do you possibly need more templates as one? I don't know. And well, the content of the template, at least in respect to layers, would be including the layer rules and the display status. And well, optional, you could create layer states and combine states to make it more easy to switch between the layers. And on the other hand, for existing models, it's very difficult to update those without having any help for this, because I tried using map keys for this, and I just can tell you this is not a good idea because it's failing all the way. And for this reason, many years ago, we started the SMARTUpdate, and well, Florin is the one who's doing the programming and the program management for this, and created this to update models in respect to a specification. You can either use this interactive, so a user can start it and to correct things on the fly, or you can use it in a batch mode, and for example, updating things from your common space directly. Well, the functions in SMARTUpdate related to layers, well, very obvious, creating, deleting, and renaming layers. It also can apply rules to the layers. A little bit more sophisticated is adding and removing items from or to layers. And of course, you can set the display status of a layer. And related to layer states, you can create, delete, and rename those states as well. Okay, this brings me back to Creo once again. Clearing out everything from session and opening up a complete different model. Well, this is an open model from the NIST in the US that I took, and well, it's nice. It has a few combined states with it already, having a lot of annotations with it. But if I open the layer tree, you'll see it's complete different from that what I had before. So if I want to modify this or update to my strategy, I'm using a SMARTUpdate configuration that I just put together for exactly this purpose and showing you this here. So in the background, SMARTUpdate already has captured the intent and well, put in all the rules, and the results are displayed in here. Yeah, there's still a lot of red flags. Yeah, so my setup is already done. Inseparable assemblies are enabled. So my cleanup still has to be done as well. So it has to delete all existing layer sets, and it will delete all the layers in here. So this is kind of a magic, because if any kind of the layers are in here that I will use in my configuration, it wouldn't delete it. Yeah, when I have deleted all the layers, I want to add my personal layer scheme. So this is a long list that SMARTUpdate has to create. And finally, I want to do a little bit of MBD infrastructure here, creating layer states and combined states for my model. So you see, this is creating layer states, creating combined state, and then there's a map key running that's activating it, and finally it's applying an appearance state to this combined state here. Yeah, so let's just don't do it completely on one run. So I just want to make sure that we can see a little bit. So I'm just cleaning up things first. So that happens very quickly. So all my layer states and all my layers are gone. Obviously, the hidden item layer is still there because it's a system layer, and well, SMARTUpdate will not have the ability to delete those. So checked. Then next, creating new layers. You see, well, all the layers, all the rules, well, my body, in this case, I have only one body applied to my layer, and everything else seems to work great here. Checked as well. And then creating the MBD infrastructure, well, it takes a little bit longer because there's a lot of program sequences running in the background because there's no tool control for all of the actions that we want to perform. So there's a combination of direct toolkit access and the program sequences that you see on the screen here. And well, it takes a few seconds creating all these combined states, layer states, a few parameters in the background. So, and finally, everything gets green and my model looks pretty different from my opinion. Well, I still have the existing combined states that were here before, but I have a lot of new combined states that I'm using, like the sitemap ones or tile block and all the ones, the model and supplemental geometry. That's all working like I imagine it. The only thing that's not working completely correctly right now is my working area, and this is because the start template features have not been changed so far. So that's a part that SMARTUpdate usually can do. I just have not put it in my configuration today because it's taking a little bit to upload those as well. But if so, all these features would go into my basic datums and would be visible as well. So that's how the update mechanism works. And even if you imagine that you just want to do a very small change in your configuration, not like me completely doing different things, it's also just, well, I don't want to have this single layer, for example, the cosmetics one, I don't want to have anymore. I can create a new template and delete it, no problem. But what do I do with all the rest of the parts that I already have? And this is where the software support comes in. So let's go back finally to my presentation. And let's talk a little bit of a few additional functions of SMARTUpdate. Well, I haven't shown the parameter and relations control where you can add and remove parameters. You can add, remove relations, you can find relations, invalid, valid by regular expressions, very powerful. You can create, rename combined states. You can check combined states if they're set up correctly. You can create features, you can sort features, you can control family tables, you can use it as a windshield gatekeeping it's writing the model check parameters in this case. You can run map keys as you've seen, and many more functions that are in. And if you're interested in more details on this, either have a look on our website, or even better, asking Florin directly or me. Yeah, and this is brings me to the final slide that I have today, to a little summary. Well, new Creo functions can affect existing visibility strategies. Well, the very last example is the multi-body. So it's affecting the strategy, and it has been in the past when new functions came in Creo, and you have to keep track on these changes to provide a stable and reliable environment to the users and customers. And for this reason, you probably have to adjust your visibility strategy. And well, if you want to do it manually, it's a chaos, and it's not nice to do it. I believe you wouldn't succeed. And if you have a tool that will help you, there's at least a good chance that you can manage all this. Yeah, so that's the end of my presentation of the two-part webinar.
Thank you very much, Jan. So we are at the end of the webinar, and yes, if you would like to request a demo license for individual testing, just let us know. You can contact Jan or me. You can see the addresses on the bottom. We are happy to have had you here at our webinar, and thank you very much for your participation, and wish you a great day furthermore. Bye.